the meeting. Calling the meeting to order. Welcome to a JEDO by Zoom. This is our second JEDO meeting by Zoom this year. 2020 has been a rather unique year that we have to adapt. And so if we could start, Madam Clerk, with a roll call vote, or roll call of attendance.
Commissioner Rippon? Commissioner Cook?
Present.
Commissioner Mays?
Here.
Mayor De La Isla?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Emerson?
Here.
Councilmember Padilla? Councilmember Lesser?
Here.
Councilmember Hiller? Councilmember Valdivia Alcala? Councilmember Ortiz? Councilmember Nager? Councilmember Dobler?
Here.
Councilmember Duncan?
Madam Clerk, I would note that Commissioner Rippon has joined us now.
I'm here.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, our first item.
Councilmember Padilla is coming in also.
Okay.
Okay. All right, item 3, presentation, plug and play, and innovation status.
Thank you very much. Katrine Bridges, Senior Vice President of Innovation at the Greater Topeka Partnership. Good evening, everybody. And thank you so very much for letting me kick off this meeting. This is what we have accomplished in 2020 under your leadership.
Welcome to Topeka. We like to say that we are the heart of the heartland. And you know what is a huge part of this? Innovation. Our community is part of a 350-mile corridor that focuses on bio-agro industries. And we are responsible, this whole corridor is responsible for over $50 billion in sales. 56% of the total global sales of bio-agro products. In our community, Topeka, we're kicking it up a notch, and we're doing so by joining with Plug and Play. I am excited about our future, and I would invite you to join us.
It is with great pleasure to announce that we are coming to Topeka, Kansas. We feel as animal health and ag tech and biosciences come together, we could create an incredible innovation platform in Topeka. We have had a great experience in different technology verticals like banking, insurance, mobility, but we feel it is time now to combine our knowledge of finding great technology and startups and helping them to realize their dream in ag tech and animal health in Topeka. Thank you very much for joining us in this journey.
Innovation is everything for us. We thrive because we have an innovative culture, and we obviously need to have an innovative community and be part of that innovative community. So having a group like Plug and Play coming here is essential for us to continue to evolve and continue to grow and win in the global pet nutrition market. And Kansas has for a long time been building a network of innovators around here that feed off each other and build a lot of successful companies. There are big companies that you can work with, and there's also all the small startups. So this is a very unique area. We like to think of it like the Silicon Valley for animal health.
Cargill strives to be at the front of innovation and new technology. Through our partnership with Plug and Play and the launch of its first animal health and ag tech accelerator, we brought together some of the brightest minds and boldest ideas in agriculture and protein production. Topeka is the new frontier for agricultural technologies, and we're thrilled to be part of the growth which will come from this rich new ecosystem.
Our work with Plug and Play in their animal health corridor has been a great asset to us and our company. The network that they provide to help us make introductions to different companies and potential partners has been invaluable so that we can continue to accelerate our work and our business.
Topeka is a great opportunity for these startups with the I-70 corridor, all the animal science and ag tech that we're looking forward to. I mean, right now it's huge in this area. We've got great partners like Hills Pet Nutrition and Cargill, who are other founding members of this venture. And, you know, we just want to see additional companies like them. Those companies are great community partners as well. And we just want to see this whole area continue to grow and thrive. We really look at our partnership with Plug and Play as an investment in the future. We will get an opportunity to work with some great startup companies, and we hope that someday they will call Topeka and the surrounding area home.
We are so excited to start this new chapter in Topeka's story. Plug and Play gives us and our partners across the heartland access to a global network of innovators. Over 400 of the most prominent global corporations will be able to access innovative products and services developed by our local entrepreneurs. We're creating opportunities for our homegrown talent to develop technologies that can be scaled globally from right here. And we're creating real economic impact by bringing about 20 startup companies to Topeka every year to show what we have to offer. We welcome them to our emerging ecosystem that offers a large amount of resources and that will soon be anchored by Topeka's new innovation district. Keep an eye on Topeka. There's more exciting things to come. So you don't have to take it just from me anymore. This is no longer just a vision. Plug and Play is here. We are now, as you can see, part of the map in animal health and ag tech, along with all the other locations that you see on the map here. It brings a little tear to my eye every time I look at this. Next slide, please. This is the Plug and Play website. So Topeka is identified clearly as one of the top locations for Plug and Play, next to Sao Paulo, Paris, Munich, Silicon Valley, Northwest Arkansas. That's where we belong. So next slide, please. And you have been listening to me talking about verticals, different industries that Plug and Play is active in. And we started at, I think, about 13 when we first started conversations with them. They have now included 19 different verticals, and animal health is the 19th, the first animal health vertical accelerator that Plug and Play has on the planet is right here in Topeka. Next slide, please. I hope many of you had an opportunity to participate in the selection day. That is the day when we kicked off our first cohort with 10 pitch sessions by startups. Saeed Amidi, the CEO and founder of Plug and Play, kicked off the session. We had fireside chats with corporate partners and then saw pitch sessions. Next slide, please. This would not be possible without the commitment of our first founding partners. You've heard it in the news. It is Cargill out of Wichita, Effigy, our strong local partner, and Hills Pet Nutrition, who has been a strong supporter and driver of our strategy from the very beginning. You also see that this is not just a local phenomenon. This is a project that involves more locations in Kansas, and we hope that we can grow the program to reach across the heartland. Next slide, please. The next slide, you will see the 10 startups that actually pitched on October 21st. Can we get the slide? Yes. So 10 startups, and I can tell you, they come from Spain, the UK, Sweden, Australia, Florida, Silicon Valley, and Colorado. So we will have the opportunity every 6 months to welcome 10 more companies to Topeka to participate in the accelerator program and show what Topeka has to offer. As you can imagine, it is up to us now to develop a toolbox to really convince those companies to stay here and develop a footprint here. I'm quite convinced not everybody is going to stay here, but if we can get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 to develop a strategy to come here to Topeka, open an office space here in Topeka, it would have a huge impact on our economy. Next slide, please. One big part of that toolbox is, of course, having the infrastructure in place for those companies to be successful. And infrastructure means space, it means wet lab space, it means office space, a thriving innovation campus. Next slide, please. And you have heard me talk to you about that in previous meetings. We have kicked off a viability assessment, I should say 2 viability assessments by 2 renowned developing companies that specialize in innovation campuses, innovation buildings. The first one is BioRealty in collaboration with CRB. And the second one, next slide, please, is Clark Enersen and MAC Partners. They have started to work on the viability assessments since July of this year. And in this case, Clark Enersen, I want to point out with these 2 images that we see here, they have been involved in developing an innovation district in Omaha, Nebraska, and an innovation campus in Lincoln, Nebraska, 2 very different approaches, as one is a more urban environment with a lot of amenities, entertainment, restaurants, coffee shops, and so on, and a more removed innovation campus that is more focused on research and their strong tie to the university. Next slide, please. So our objective for finding the right space, the right scope, the right partners for an innovation campus is that we want to provide that hub of innovation and that center where entrepreneurs in animal health, but also in other industries, can find a home that is attractive, but is also a safe and healthy and flexible building that matches the requirement in hopefully very soon post-COVID-19 world. That is attractive to local and regional, national, and an international audience, as you see with the startups that we mentioned earlier, and you saw one of them in the video. We actually have an international audience and target audience for attracting startups here. And what's important is long-term feasibility, room for growth, smart expansion strategy. So initially we had looked at the Kansas Science and Technology Park and the river area south that the Stantec study on behalf of the city had identified as an ideal potential spot. Both developers have come back to us and asked whether or not they can expand their search for the ideal site to additional locations because of the importance of close by amenities that are attractive to the entrepreneurs that we want to attract. And both the Innovation Campus Task Force and the Innovation Advisory Board approved to look at additional sites, pursue some downtown options and some additional options I'm very hopeful that I can present their recommendations early in 2021. So with that, I am happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Katrin, very much for that presentation. Do we have any questions from the JEDO board regarding the presentation on plug and play and the innovation campus and status? Councilmember Emerson.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook, or Chair. Not a question, just I wanted to, I don't know if it was a year or two ago, this was just getting off the ground, and I just really appreciate all the work that Katrin has done and all the people with Plug and Play. I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity for Topeka and Shawnee County, so keep up the great work.
Are there any other questions? All right. Seeing none, unless there are, shout out. Thank you very much, Katrin. Our next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 4A, approval of the September 9th JEDO board meeting minutes.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding the minutes? Is there a motion?
This is Aaron Mays. I would move to approve.
I'll second.
Noting a motion made by Commissioner Mays, a second by Councilmember Emerson. A roll call the vote, please.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser.
Yes.
Okay. Show that it passes. Our next item.
Item 4B, approval of Project Vita incentive agreement.
Okay. I believe this is a presentation of an agreement.
Thank you, Commissioner. With our business retention and expansion programs, we continue to serve as a liaison and primary resource for existing businesses in the community, making sure we serve the needs of our major employers and meet the needs and future plans that they may have for local organizations so they can continue to expand too. We continue to see considerable expansion and have several projects this evening to present. At the last September 9th meeting, the approval of Project Vita's funding occurred with a total approved incentive of $76,500 based upon their capital investment of $1.5 million and an addition of 7 new jobs over the next 5 years with average wages of $85,000 annually. This investment will result in an economic impact of $40.5 million over 10 years and a 396% return on investment. With the economic impact calculations that Freddie noted, he said this, while it's a total number of additional jobs that are smaller than we sometimes see, the wages are a great addition to our economy. And that's an indicator of the innovation we're seeing in several spaces: animal health, biosciences, and ag tech. Great potential for projects that, while they may be small, are really meaningful. These approved incentives are performance-based to be paid out as earned. And with your approval of the contract agreement that's in your packet this evening, we're very excited to announce that Project Vita is life sciences company LifeTech Diagnostics. I'd like to invite Dr. Sam Almirani, General Manager of the organization, to unmute and turn his video on to address and share comments related to the project and their growth and success in our community. You may recognize Dr. Almirani as a founder in another biosciences organization from Project K, Bimini Pet Health, in 2019. We're thrilled to see the innovation that's occurring in Topeka, and Dr. Almirani's efforts in both organizations show Topeka's strength in fostering innovation. Dr. Almirani.
Thank you very much, Barb. I'd like to first start by thanking everybody on behalf of our team at LifeTech Diagnostics, thanking the JEDO board members for giving us this opportunity. It is much appreciated. We started this company, really it came as it was an idea back in August, and we're actually operational as of this last Monday. We started it based on a glaring need in the COVID testing gap that we are seeing across the nation. And we decided to do something about it. So we put together a lab, and like I said, we are operational and doing testing right now in Topeka for COVID-19 to start off with, but we do intend to expand our to add other specialized tests as we grow. And also, most importantly, focus on adding additional job opportunities. And these are positions that are well-paid positions, and also take advantage of the available pool of, we forget that Topeka is actually a university town. We have a university here that produces biologists, and I'm happy to report that we hired at least one of them. It's an untapped resource. We would like to make our company one of those companies that takes advantage of all the resources available in this area, certainly in Topeka. Once again, we'd like to thank you all for this opportunity. The incentive that you've given us certainly gives us a good start to the goals of having a bigger company that provides different types of testing, and potentially also adding more research and development in vaccines and therapeutics as well as we go along. So thanks again, and I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Do we have any questions for our Project Vita? Now, and again, the name of the company for everybody that's watching at home.
Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Almorani. He was a great community partner when the COVID pandemic started. They were very generous to Shawnee County, the health department, not the health department, but the emergency management team. And when we were short some sanitizer to work with our community partners, they were extremely generous to us. So Sam, thank you so much for your support of our community. So excited to see that you've made Topeka home and that you're expanding. We're going to be with you every step of the way. And I would make a motion for approval.
There's a motion made by Mayor Della Isla. Is there any other questions or comments?
I'll second.
Noting a second by Commissioner Rippon. Is there any further discussion? We can do a roll call vote.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council Members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser.
Yes.
Show that it passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much for investing in our community.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to having a long partnership with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. One and all.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 4C, approval of Project Vertical Incentive Agreement.
Thank you again. Also at the September 9th meeting, the approval of Project Vertical's funding occurred with a total approved incentive of $234,000 based upon a capital investment of $6.6 million, along with an additional 44 new jobs over the next 5 years with average wages of $43,000 annually plus benefits. This investment will result in a $40.5 million economic impact over 10 years and provides a 396% return on investment. The incentives are always performance-based. They will be paid out as earned, and details are outlined in the contract agreement in your packet. With the approval of the agreement this evening, we're very pleased to announce that Project Vertical is Hayden Tower Service. I'd like to virtually introduce Tommy Lewis, Project Manager, to address and share comments related to the project and their growth and success. Tommy, if you'll unmute and start your video, please.
Good evening, everybody. And on behalf of Hayden Tower Service, I'd like to thank everyone who has made these incentives possible. Over the last several years, we have been expanding our services, which consist of tower erection, tower maintenance, antenna and line, site civil construction, and pre-construction services in the 5 major telecommunication markets, which has brought a ton of opportunities requiring us to add more people and expand. That, combined with today's increase in demand for wireless communication infrastructure across the major markets we serve, has led us to a significant future growth plan. As she stated, we're looking to add 40 employees over the next 3 years with a goal to be around 165 by 2025, which equates to increasing our field crews from around 20 to up to 30 over the next 3 and potentially up to around 35 or 40 by 2025. So that requires professionally trained and outfitted field and office staff and space, which is critical for us to maintain and continue expanding our services to accomplish this growth plan. And this supporting incentive will be a great help to us. So thank you very much.
Commissioner?
Yes.
I did get my numbers crossed and I apologize. I meant to tell you that Project Vertical was 200 million in economic impact and 780% on return on investment. And I crossed my numbers with all my notes.
No one, I understand. Tommy, how big of an area are you covering currently, and where do you consider this expanding to?
Our expansion continues to be based out of Topeka, but we serve the entire Midwest.
And then as far as the future growth, how long or what's the anticipated length of time to see this new growth that you're looking at?
We're looking to grow about 20% annually over the next 5 years.
Are there any other questions for Tommy Lewis, Mr. Lewis? Councilmember Lesser.
Yeah, hey, Tommy. I just, other thing I wanted to point out to many people as well, congratulations to you, number one. Number two is, I know firsthand they also utilize a lot of our local subcontractors on their projects. Despite one of my best friends from high school, Mark Stanley, working for you, I probably still will support this action. But
thank you, Mike.
Any other questions for Mr. Lewis? Seeing none, unless you're speaking up. If we could have a roll call vote for, is there a motion, I guess, a motion to approve the contract of Project Vertical?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Della Isla, so second by Councilmember Padilla. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zerpan?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla?
Yes, sorry.
Deputy Mayor Emerson?
Yes.
Council members Padilla
Yes.
and Lesser.
Yes.
Great. Show that it approves. Congratulations, Mr. Lewis. We look forward to working with you.
Likewise. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 4D, approval of amendment of Project Purple incentive agreement.
Good evening, board members. This is Jim Krause, Shawnee County Councilor. Several weeks ago, Molly, Howie, and Barbara Stapleton contacted me. These are, you notice that these are listed as amendments to existing agreements. These are both agreements, both items are agreements that were previously approved by JEDO. After approval of the agreements, both companies came forward with requested changes to the agreements. The changes are minor. They do not change or alter the basics of what was approved by JEDO. Project Purple had a technical error in how the baseline for how the incentives were to be calculated. It had an error in that contract. And so they requested that change. And then on Project Prince, there were a lot of minor little changes that were requested by the company. In both instances, as a matter of transparency, we felt it was best to bring both contracts, although they had been previously approved by JEDO, so that the record was clear. We'd have these amendments before the JEDO board for reapproval, so that the public could review both agreements and see what the final changes were. And I'll be happy to try to answer any additional questions you might have.
Do any of the members have any questions for Mr. Crowell regarding these amendments? Seeing no questions. Is there a motion?
I'd move to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Do we need to do them
amendment.
separately, or should we do them both together?
We'll do them separately. So a motion to amend Project Purple by Commissioner Mays. Is there a second?
Second.
Showing a second by Mayor Della Isla. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioners Rippon, Commissioner Rippon, I'll come back to you. Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council Members Padilla
Yes.
and Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioner Rippon.
Yes.
Show that it passes. And then as outlined previously by Councilor Crowell, we have the amendment for Project Prince. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to Project Prince?
So moved.
So a motion made by Commissioner Mays. The second was by who?
By Emerson.
Show second by Councilmember Emerson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rippon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council Members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Show that it passes. Our next item, please.
For F, approval of incentive funding for Project Meadowlark.
Hello again. Project Meadowlark is a manufacturing technology company looking to expand in our community. They will be investing $5.4 million in facility improvement expenditures and equipment purchases. Over the next 5 years, they'll also be adding up to 41 new jobs with an average wage of $42,000 annually plus benefits. We're proposing up to $226,800 in incentives, and all incentives are performance-based to be paid out as earned. With your approval of the funding this evening, the details of the agreement will be outlined via formal contract and presented for your approval at a future meeting. The economic impact on this project is $212 million over the next 10 years, and the return on investment is calculated to be 560%.
Barbara, just to make sure that we're clear, this is a existing business that is looking to add additional jobs to the community.
That is correct.
And with those additional jobs, we are looking at 41 new jobs total. And then the average, again, is 42,000 for the wages.
Correct. That is right.
Are there any questions regarding Project Meadowlark? Is there a motion to approve the incentive agreement for Project Meadowlark?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Was that Councilmember Enersen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show a motion made by Mayor Della Isla to approve, and with a second by Councilmember Enersen. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rippon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Commissioner Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser.
Will show that it passes. Our next item.
Item 4G, approval of incentive funding for Project Central.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm presenting to you Project Central. We are seeking the incentive funding for this project. Project Central is a new business attraction project that Go Topeka has been working for the past several months. They are a manufacturing company. They're looking to come to Shawnee County and add 50 new jobs over the next 5 years with an average wage of $40,000 a year plus benefits. For the job incentives, we'll be offering $200,000, and then for the capital investment of $9.5 million, we'll be looking at $34,000 for that, and then also a training grant of $50,000, which is $1,000 per each new job added. So in total, we're requesting $284,000 for incentives for Project Central. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about this project as well.
And then just again to go through, this is a business that is going to be relocating to Topeka or Shawnee County.
Correct.
And then these are new jobs that are going to be created by as a result of them moving.
Correct. They're actually they're not moving. They're adding on, but they are not currently located in Shawnee County. So they are a new business attraction, just expanding.
We have additional questions regarding Project Central. Is there a motion regarding the approval of Project Central?
Motion to approve.
Second, Mike Padilla.
And then the motion, was that made by, who made the motion again? I'm sorry.
This is Councilman Lesser. It would be helpful when we do go to vote if the screen can be, I can't even find my box here, if you know what I mean.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we saw a motion made by Councilmember Lesser, a second by Councilmember Emerson. Our roll call vote, please.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser.
Yes.
Show that it passes. Our next item, please.
Item 4H, approval of incentive funding for Project Gateway.
Okay, last but not least, we have Project Gateway. Wait for this to pull up here. So Project Gateway is an existing business in Topeka and Shawnee County that is looking to expand their operations. They are a technology company that is looking to add up to 168 new jobs over the next 5 years. These jobs on average paid $43,000 a year plus benefits. So we are looking at offering $672,000 for the 168 new jobs, as well as $1,000 per new employee added for training costs. Since this is a technology project, they will be using training dollars in partnership with Washburn Tech and have started conversations with Washburn Tech as well. In total, we are requesting $840,000 in incentives for Project Gateway, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Again, this is a additional 168 new full-time jobs.
Correct.
And then the time frame in which that would be done is within the next 5 years.
Correct. Yep.
Are there any questions regarding Project Gateway? Is there a motion
for approval?
Show a motion made by Mayor De La Isla. Is there a second?
I'll second. Bill Rippon.
Show a motion made by Mayor De La Isla. Show a second made by Commissioner Bill Rippon. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser.
Yes.
We'll show that approved, and then we'll look forward to having these 3 projects come back to us at a later meeting for the approval of the project's agreements. And those were for Project Meadowlark, Project Central, and Project Gateway. Thank you very much.
Thank
Our
you.
next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 5, presentation Go Topeka third quarter report.
You can move to the next slide. Okay, Molly Howie here, President Go Topeka. It's pretty obvious from the items that we just went over what our team has been busy working on in the last quarter, but I'll touch on a few highlights just to dive in a little bit more. You do have the third quarter report in your packet and have received that previously as well. I'll first touch on new business attraction projects, just to show you kind of the makeup of the types of companies that we're seeing and receiving inquiries from. So still the bulk of those projects are manufacturing, but as you look down to bioscience and animal health, we do have 5 projects in that industry. So that just kind of speaks to the way that we are targeting those types of companies and the shift that we're making in our marketing efforts, as well as the things that we're doing with plug and play and the national and international attention that we have received around that industry. So 37 new projects year to date. That's fine, go ahead. And this snapshot just shows the business retention and expansion projects for 2020. The ones that have already been announced are highlighted there, but you've seen a lot of those tonight, and the numbers are before you just to remind you again, but I think this is probably a banner year for both new business and existing business projects. And so I just wanted to show you what all we have done this year and just really kind of show it on one screen. So the next slide is the cumulative totals for 2020. So this year we have announced 430 new jobs from both new and existing companies for a total of almost 70 million in capital investment. And that economic impact is $1.5 billion. So that's the highlights of where we're at so far in 2020. And I'm just proud that Topeka has been so resilient through all the challenges of the year and hopeful that we continue on in 2021. That's all I have for this portion of the quarterly report, and I can pass it on to the rest of the crew.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. So to touch briefly on some of the things we've been doing with talent initiatives, I wanted to give you the most current information. Particularly, we are continuing to offer our human resources breakouts throughout this year. The most recent one that we did was related to unemployment fraud with the Kansas Department of Labor. We heard from two folks from there. They discussed unemployment fraud issues in the state that we're seeing as employers and how it impacts both the employers and employees, as well as the virtual Q&A and resources for them, because there's been so much unemployment fraud that has been surfacing in the last few months. We also, of course, partner included with Glenda Washington's Women in Minority Business Development. And so we partner her from the community perspective and our talent initiatives from corporate perspective. And so we were able to host that just today, where Glenda was able to share kind of how we weave that diversity, equity, and inclusion into mission and vision statements for organizations, as well as to highlight and showcase the interactively presented A Seat at the Table that you may have heard of, and she might be able to talk with you about it a bit more later. But it was a wonderful presentation. And then upcoming, we have another presentation that we're offering. It's actually an information session, of course, for our businesses and industry, but it's related to a youth apprenticeship intermediary project where they'll be able to hear about information from the Institute for Workplace Skills and Innovation in partnership with the Urban Institute and the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship to learn about a funded project to link schools, colleges, employers, and workforce development organizations together to increase the quality and quantity of youth apprenticeships and see how it can assist them in long-term talent pipeline and workforce training needs. And I'll pass it on to my next colleague too.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, Glenda.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to only be a few minutes, but what I wanted to do was come to the table and say thank you. Thank you for having the vision to join us as we supported our small businesses in the community. We came to you in the late spring saying our businesses won't survive if we don't do anything. And as a result, we have an award-winning program that people know now about across the country. We have, through the Post 1, which was the private sector side, Post 2 was public, and then the small business incentive, we've impacted this small business community with about $1.8 million in support. We have supported furloughed workers. We have provided relief to the different business owners. And I have constantly received calls, letters, cards, people on the verge of tears saying, thank you so much. So that is my report. I just want to thank you all for supporting our small businesses, for having the foresight to kind of look at it a little different. Life was different. And so we had to look at what we did for our businesses differently. And so this has been a great opportunity for our businesses to know that they're cared about, that their survival matters to us, and that we're willing to, take chances and look at how we support them a little different. I will have the final numbers, the final economic impact for you at our fourth quarter meeting, but I just wanted to say thanks.
Glenda, thank you for you and all your team and everything you've been doing. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
My next that concludes our quarterly report.
Are there any questions regarding the quarterly report? As always, the quarterly report is contained within the website, and Topeka distributes that to the JEDO members. And so you should have a full report. If you have any questions, please speak up. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 6A, approval of the Topeka 2021 budget.
Good evening. Tonight, I have before you the proposed 2021 Topeka public budget. Just a quick reminder of how we got to where we're at tonight. If you could advance to the next slide, please. In September, we brought a concepts discussion before the JEDO meeting to talk about the strategic areas we'd be targeting in the 2021 budget. We then took those concepts that we drafted back to the Go Topeka board and put some numbers to those and presented a draft budget to our Go Topeka board in October. That draft budget was approved to then go before having one-on-one meetings with JEDO members in November. We invited each and every one of you to sit down and have a discussion with us to dive deep into the details behind the budget. And let me thank each and every one of you who took the opportunity to meet with us. Those meetings are very valuable for us to gather your feedback and input, and I hope that you find value in those as well. Which brings us to tonight. In December, we received our Go Topeka board approval, and we are now bringing that budget before the JEDO meeting tonight for seeking your approval. Before I hand it over to Molly, I'll just give you a quick rundown and some housekeeping items on the budget file to hopefully help orient yourself as we walk through some of these numbers. The schedule represented on the third page of your budget section of your packet should look very familiar. This should look very familiar from last year. We did not make a whole lot of changes. As a reminder, last year was the first year we saw our budget presented on an accrual basis of accounting, and this year is no different. We are presenting that budget on a full accrual. And that the primary difference between modified cash and accrual is that the revenue on the statement of activities is presented on a modified cash basis when the cash is received, and on accrual basis, it is presented when a qualified expense is incurred. So it may not necessarily be 5 million every year. Could be higher, could be lower, depending upon if we are presenting a use of or add to our carry forward dollars. The first 5 columns on this worksheet are what we consider our ongoing programming columns. So these are our programs that typically are year over year, and carry forward programs from the prior year, which then sum into the 5th column, which is our summary column of our total ongoing program. And you'll notice there you have a comparative 2020 versus 2021. So this column is a good comparative point to look year over year. So I'll hand it over to Molly, and she will walk through some of the information and details that are behind these numbers.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I'll echo the thank you comments that Natalie made. We had a record number of participants from you all that took us up on the offer to go through the budget with us. I don't know if it's because it's easier in a virtual format or what, but that was very helpful. And we got to dive into a lot of details with you all, and you asked some really good questions. So that's helpful as we get to this point in the process. And for efficiency, I'm going to go through each of the program highlight areas and touch on the new initiatives and the things that maybe you haven't seen in the past. And then the full team is here if you do have more detailed questions. But to speed things along, I'm just going to cover the first 4 columns for everyone. So that first column of business attraction and retention, remember last year we started to combine both of those areas into one column. They do have their own separate budgets that roll up to this column behind the scenes. So a few items that I'd like to touch on that are new. One is the aerospace industry strategy. So we were presented with an opportunity from the Department of Commerce to partner with them and leverage our dollars, and they are matching the funds that we have in this budget. We have $60,000 set aside for an aerospace industry strategy, and we'll be working closely with the MTAA to better market the asset we have out at Forbes Industrial Park. We've already started conversations with consultants that are in that industry that really know who to tap into. And so I'm excited about that, and owe a thank you to the Department of Commerce to partner with us on that initiative. Another new piece in this area is a focus on redevelopment. So we do have within this budget the hiring of a full-time employee starting halfway through 2021 that will focus on facilitating redevelopment efforts and work very closely with the Development Services Department at the City of Topeka to really focus on blighted areas and large catalytic vacant spaces or infill opportunities that will help serve as catalysts for the development around our whole city and help really raise the quality of our place of Topeka and Shawnee County. And then travel and marketing adjustments, just because of COVID and we're not sure what our face-to-face sales strategy is going to look like and how many face-to-face events we'll be able to partake in next year, we have scaled that back a little bit and shifted some funds into advertising, because no matter what, we need to be in front of those companies and site selectors, whether it's face-to-face or in the items that they're reading on screen or in print. And then lastly, in this column, just incentive, I just want to draw your attention to that piece of the budget. That's the area where we have incentives that are already approved by you all and projected to be paid out in 2021. So this is the number that sometimes wiggles when we get to the end of the year and impacts our carry forward, just based on whether the companies are going to perform and receive those incentives that have been awarded to them in the year, or if they'll roll over into the next year. So most of that's just a timing issue. We can move to the next column, next slide. Okay, small business and entrepreneurial ecosystem. These are two budgets that are the same situation as the area before, where they have full budgets behind them and then they roll up to the same column here. You heard a lot from Katrin earlier today about the Innovation Campus and the center that we need to support the activities that are going on with Plug and Play and other entrepreneurs in our area. We also have training courses, obviously, that we have been administering in the past that will continue into the future. The Wheelhouse Incubator Program and the Kaufman Fast Track programs, things like that. Branding and advertising, there's a little change there based on the fact that we are rolling out this animal health and ag tech focus area that Katrin is leading. And so we really need to get in front of a different type of audience than we have in the past and create some new marketing collateral around that. The Washburn pitch competition remains in this area of the budget and has been successful in the past, and I think really speaks to that entrepreneurial spirit that we're trying to foster in Topeka as well. The incentives here, just one note about that is that, typically I think the incentives that we have seen in the small business area have been more traditional small businesses. And I'm hoping that with Plug and Play coming online, we'll be seeing more Plug and Play companies taking advantage of those incentives as well. So those incentives are not, geared toward a certain type of company or anything like that. It's based on their size and their need, but we are seeing that those categories that are set in the small business incentives do seem to speak to the entrepreneurs and small businesses that are in our community and really help fill those gaps to help them grow. Next slide. Minority and women business development. So this is the area where we have intentionally spent funding that matches the criteria with the interlocal and meets that criteria for the 10% of the economic development funds that we are administering. And you will find efforts throughout the rest of the budget that hit this area as well, but this column represents the intentional spend of those dollars. We also do have the opportunity to flag different efforts and costs that we can associate back to that same criteria within other parts of the budget. So at the end of the year next year, we'll be able to say, actually, this column is what we plan to spend, but we also did touch on diversity, equity, and inclusion and disadvantaged businesses in other areas of the budget as well. So we'll be able to track that a little bit better. But some items that are within this area are the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit event that will be new next year and an all-day event to really elevate the topic that is so important to us at Go Topeka and the partnership, and you all at Topeka and Shawnee County as well. And it's just very relevant for the times that we are in right now, and just talking about the fact that we need to be an inclusive community. The Seat at the Table initiative, I think Barbara touched on earlier, has already launched, and I think Glenda has seen such a great response from that. And if you don't know what it is and you want to get involved, get a hold of Glenda. But really, that's facilitating conversations with people that don't look like you or may not come from the same background as you, and really just helping to foster more of an inclusive, open conversation within our community. The Topeka Housing Authority Incubator Project, you all are well aware of that project, and so that the costs associated with bringing that online are in this area of the budget as well. And then included, that's the business case for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so the quarterly events that are held around that are funded by this area of the budget as well. Next slide. Sorry. Okay, so lastly, talent initiatives. There aren't very many components in this area of the budget. As always, the JEDO scholarships for Washburn Tech and Washburn Tech East are in this component of the budget and remain the same level as they have been in the past, as well as a talent attraction marketing campaign. So, you know, we have had this in the budget in the past to really target the types of skills that we need to fill the jobs for Project Central and Project Meadowlark and Project Vertical and whatever else comes onto our desks in next year. And so attracting the types of skills that we need is really important to have the workforce that we need to attract and retain the companies that we're targeting. And the marketing campaign will exist whether or not we have Choose Topeka, but that's kind of the idea of what the marketing campaign will look like. We have a really good look and feel and brand around our talent attraction marketing collateral right now and have gotten a lot of traction around Choose Topeka. So we're capitalizing on that and continuing to market to the skills that we need for our community through that channel. And then I think it's Natalie's turn, unless you'd like us to pause for anything on the programs to make it a little cleaner, and we can always circle back also.
Are there any questions from the JEDO board so far?
Okay, go ahead, Natalie.
All right, I will cover the last few columns here on this worksheet for you. So in the general and administrative column, this is the expenses that are vital to the operation of Go Topeka and vital to its efforts in economic development, but not necessarily directly tied to one of the 4 columns that we just covered. And so we label that as our general activity. The things included in that are our shared services. So those are the services for marketing, HR, admin, finance, and those are the areas that are shared across many of the organizations within the Greater Topeka Partnership. The shared PR, we do have a PR firm that helps us get the word out about Topeka, and that really supports all of the different programs we just touched on. So that falls within our general column. We are proposing to continue our support of the Governor's Military Council next year, and that is not directly related to any of the 4 columns, so therefore falls within that general column as well. And then some of the other bigger things you'll see is software and subscriptions, which are vital for giving us all of the tools in our toolbox in order to project those economic impacts from many of the projects that come forward, as well as just projects and projections for the community as a whole. And then we have a lot of shared costs, shared administrative costs for things like rent and utilities and office supplies and various things like that. That sums up the ongoing programming column. So if we look comparative year over year, I mentioned a good number to look at is the total expenses before incentives for 2021 is sitting at 2.9 million, whereas compared to 2.6 last year. So that is the increase in the programming side of Go Topeka. If we go ahead and advance to the next slide, once we get to the other side of the ongoing programming columns, we get into the column labeled special initiative, and there are a few things that come into this column this year. These are the special initiatives are the things in which we don't have a ongoing program for, but that we call out and separate them independently from the ongoing programming, really to help with that year over year comparison, because these numbers can fluctuate materially from year to year. In the special initiatives column, the first column, we have 2 things in here. We have the Choose Topeka incentives. So we came before JEDO in December of last year and requested to encumber those funds. But at that time, those funds had a 1-year performance time period. So we did not see any of those funds actually pay out in 2020, but they will begin to pay out in 2021. And the second piece of that is in September, there was the discussion around transportation and workforce initiatives, specifically with transportation. And so the funding, the $100,000 requested to set aside for that is also represented in this column. And then the second column there, it's labeled East Topeka Learning Center, is where you see the Washburn Tech East activity. So this was the project that happened in 2018, where the build out of that Washburn Tech East facility is. We just have some ongoing costs there. namely insurance on the building, interest on the debt, and then the depreciation of the building. So these are costs that we'll see going forward. And then that brings us to the total 2021 Go Topeka proposed budget. We are proposing a use of $5.36 million. Therefore, it would be a 2021 use of carry forward dollars of $362,000 to support this budget. And we will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions regarding the 2021 budget? At this time, is there a motion to approve the 2021 budget as presented?
So moved.
I'll show a motion made by Mayor Della Isla. Is there a second to the motion for the 2021 budget?
This is Aaron Mays. I'll second.
Show a second by Commissioner Mays. Is there any further discussion regarding the 2021 budget? Seeing none, if we could take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Show that it passes. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 6B, approval of the carry forward agreement.
Okay.
Okay, if you can advance the slide. In your packet, you have the agreement that we present to you each year. The amount we are requesting to carry forward this year is just over 11.1 million. We do like to show this breakdown just to inform the board and the public of the funds that are encumbered and the plans to set aside some funds for economic development incentives in the future as well. So I'll run through these kind of briefly, and then we can dive in for questions if you have any. So as Natalie mentioned, the 2021 budget use of $362,000. So that comes off of your 11.1 that we're starting with. And then the restricted uses by contract for the minority and women business development, that's carryover of $789,000 that needs to remain protected for the uses that are allowed within the interlocal agreement. We also have future commitments that have already been approved by this body, committed incentives of just over 4.1 million, and then the Choose Topeka incentives of 61,000 as well. Reserves for special purpose, these are not encumbered, but it's a best practice to have some funds in the coffer should a large project come our way and we need to incentivize on the front end of a project, especially since our available land for development is diminishing. So that would be a cost that would be more likely to be on the front end of a project as well. So the $5 million that is at the bottom is what we're requesting to or suggesting that we would save for something like that in the future, which then leaves just $700,000 remaining for future investment that is to be determined in future conversations. So that's kind of a quick rundown just to let you know what that 11.1 represents. I know we've had a lot of conversations about that in the past, and we want to keep this type of a format for this conversation so that we're all aware of what that means. But I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Molly. Are there any questions regarding the carry forward agreement? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the carry forward agreement?
So moved.
Show Mayor Della Isla to a motion to approve the carry forward agreement. Is there a second?
I'll second. Aaron Mays.
Show Commissioner Mays seconding the carry forward agreement. Is there any further discussion regarding the approval of the 2021 carry forward agreement? Seeing none, Roll call vote on approval.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isa,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council Members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser.
Yes.
We will show that that approves. Our next item, please.
Item 6C, an update of the Transportation Task Force with possible action.
Hello, I'm excited to talk with you tonight about the work that's been done since the September JEDO meeting around workforce transportation. Go Topeka convened a task force of employers, JEDO members, Topeka Metro, Capital City Taxi, and Go Topeka staff, myself and Barbara. We started out by reviewing the facts around the transportation pilot that we had done in the past with Soto and Neto. We talked about the fact that the providers cannot continue in the manner they have in the past due to capacity issues. We discussed some alternate transportation solutions. Bob Nugent with the Topeka Metro was there to educate the task force on some other types of programs that he's seen in other markets. We talked about the unique needs that Shawnee County has, and we brainstormed to come to a flexible, inclusive solution that allows for all businesses in Shawnee County to take part and receive incentives to help fill the workforce transportation gaps in our community. Barbara is going to walk through the proposed initiative that allows companies to choose what works best for them and their employees. And it encourages companies to be creative in solving these workforce barriers by matching their investment with JEDO funds. This initiative is more inclusive than the pilot programs we've seen in the past and allows more businesses to take part in a public-private partnership to fill the workforce transportation gaps in our community. So Barbara, if you'd like to walk through the components that are laid out in the memo in the packet.
Thank you, Molly. Next slide, please. So as Molly mentioned, from the insights and feedback we received, a more customized approach to workforce transportation was developed. You'll note in your packet and on the slides as I share, the task force recommends the encumbered amount of $100,000 of workforce barrier funds be used for an a la carte transportation service type option. If an employer would like to submit for a transportation services incentive through this option, they'll enter into an agreement to participate. They'll select and partner with their chosen provider or providers, and they'll offer various options as an added workforce transportation resource for their site. These can include use of one or more of the options you see that are on the screen. Next slide. Task force members will assist employers with information to develop their options for workforce transportation resources, and then employers will enter into an agreement expressing their intent and minimum commitment of funding for each year. Employer commitment amounts for JEDO funds of 100% match will begin at $1,000 per year for a $1,000 JEDO match and $2,000 total, and could go up to $10,000 per year in initial commitments, but ultimately contingent upon the availability of funds. There may be remaining funds that are available beyond the initial round of submissions, and employers may submit for additional funds if needed. Because funding is matched, employers that choose to participate will be able to stand up a resource quickly, ensuring that no gap in coverage need occur. This is a transportation incentive designated for workforce transportation to and from an employer outside of regular working hours and or the geographic service area of the Topeka Metro. You'll also note that we've mentioned entrepreneurial options, and a provider-based organization may also submit a request for the incentive to create an entrepreneurial organization that provides after-hours outside service area transportation services, providing proof of employers' commitments to participate and agreements that sustain the same. This is a new proposed incentive, a flexible and more inclusive solution that allows for more businesses to take part in receiving incentives to help fill the workforce transportation gaps in our community. The Go Topeka board has reviewed and approved the incentive recommendations, and we're recommending JEDO approval this evening. Next slide.
Thank you, Barbara. If to bring up the people up to speed, or the members up to speed, at the last JEDO meeting, we had discussed the creation of the task force. Councilmember Padilla, I know that you're one of our members that serves on it. Is there any insight that you want to bring to us or share with us?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, this is something that I've been interested in for some time, along with other members of the commission and the council, trying to work with the local organizations, also with the JUMP organization, who have been strong proponents of the workforce transportation effort. And I commend, I think, Go Topeka for what it has done to this point and now beyond the point. I know that some are frustrated a bit that things aren't going to be the same, but for a lot of things that we're trying to work around, things aren't the same. Conditions have dictated that we look at different options. I think Molly and Barbara have been very good at accepting ideas. It was discussed that we bring in the employers for the discussion so that they could give us their feedback, and quite honestly just ask them what would it take to make something work and to help with your businesses in giving stable transportation to employees that you need. And so they brought them into the conversation. I thought that was extremely a good idea on their part, and they worked well with them. They worked with Mr. Nugent, and I think what has developed from this is that we've learned that one size doesn't fit all. And so we had to give some options so that those who want to continue to participate and who support the program can pick that program which works best. It also may have inspired some of the businesses to look at other options even outside of this option, to where maybe they internally will find other ways to help and assist and promote stable transportation for its employees. So I know that for some it may not be everything that they hoped and wished for, but I think it was really truly an honest effort to try to meet the needs and concerns of both the employers and the employees. I know there are people who depend upon this, and it is my commitment still that as we move forward, that the conversations don't stop, that we still try to monitor how these options are utilized. And if there are some tweaking that still needs to be done, then I'm very confident that if necessary, Molly and Barbara can pull back together a task force group to review and consider those other options. So I want to thank them for all their work and effort. I really do appreciate everyone who has spent time working on this. And so I would like to see us move forward. I know that it's going to be a tough time, but I know that we'll be able to overcome these obstacles and be able to connect workers with the employers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Padilla, is it the anticipation of the task force that by going in this route with an a la carte, we will have more employers able to participate and more citizens that are able to participate than under the previous system?
I think that's the intent. I think the expectation, certainly getting feedback from the employers, there's some who are very supportive and really want it to continue. They see the advantage and the benefit. I think that will continue to grow. I think other employers who have yet made that as strong a commitment will see how it works and will join in, because it's important that this continue as an ongoing effort, and we're not at a point, I believe, where we can say, okay, we're done with this topic and we should just move on to something else, because I think it's something that will continue to change as, like we listened earlier, new jobs coming to Topeka, new opportunities for employment. So I think that we continually have to look at our entire transportation system and how we have opportunities available for people who want to work. I think it's great that Topeka has the businesses coming here, that we have the employee base, but we have to be able to make it possible. And I say we, I'm not saying that the government provides it. I'm not saying that any one entity provides it. I think it has to be a holistic approach from both the employers and the employees. So I'm optimistic about it.
Thank you. I would like to share with the JEDO board that I did receive a communication this afternoon from Kevin Moten, who is with Capital City Taxi. Capital City Taxi was previously providing and is still providing it to this point, the transportation assistance. He related the following: the business model for my company has changed, and I am no longer able to provide after-hours transportation like I did for SOTO and ETO program. JEDO, Topeka Metro, and Go Topeka have been great partners, and I was glad to be able to help fill in the workforce transportation gaps while I could. However, to no fault of any partners involved, I do not have the capacity or desire to continue. I look forward to continuing to provide traditional transportation services to our community in the future. Kevin Moten. And again, that was shared this afternoon, and he had asked that I share that with the JEDO board as he was not able to be present tonight. Are there any questions of the board, of the task force, or the JEDO staff on this item?
Mr. Chair, Councilman Lesser's raising his hand.
Councilmember Lesser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question, probably for Molly or Barbara. How many companies at this point have committed to the program?
Councilman Lesser, companies have not committed yet because, of course, we needed to have approval from JEDO this evening. We have had 4 companies indicate that they would like to continue. We may have a 5th one as well. So, and I've talked with General Manager Nugent with the Topeka Metro. He's the one that's offered his services to kind of offer that guidance and insight in terms of how to set something up. We've talked about scheduling to be able to meet with those companies in the next 7 to 14 days to get that, so we can get that moving forward.
I'd like to add on to that a bit. If this initiative is approved, we would do a public announcement to all companies within Shawnee County, because that's the difference within this program. Since it's not bound by northeast or south Topeka routes, it does open up the geographic area to all companies within Shawnee County to partake in this. So hospitals, companies that are in the middle of Topeka, but they may be operating outside of bus hours could participate as well. So we could likely have more companies based on that.
This is Mayor de la Isla. I am extremely supportive of continuing with the initiative and ensuring that the funds are there. It's a critical service in our community. And with the opportunity of expanding, I think that we're heading in the right direction.
Councilmember Lesser, did you have additional questions?
I did, yes. The other question I have is if we do have the capacity where the cap is at 20,000 or 10,000, do we have the ability to increase that if the funds are available, because the participation by other companies is not what we had hoped it would be?
Yes, we do. I know I shared a lot in that initial presentation, but yes, after that first round of funding is complete, if there are still funds available, they can come back to see additional funds.
Thank you.
Due to an emergency that occurred within the family of Councilmember Valdivia Alcala, there is a couple of questions that she wanted to have asked. The first is the press release says that there has been a decrease in workers using both Netto and Seto. How much of the decrease has to do with Netto only having 3 of the 6 original businesses still participating? And the same question for Soto, since they only have 2 of the original 8 businesses participating.
And yes, that does impact it. If employers do remove themselves from the program, the ridership does go down, and that has impacted the total number of riders that we've seen in the pilot programs as they ran.
The second question that she had was, what was the cost of a one-way trip to an employer? Estimating is fine.
So our estimation, and I spoke with General Manager Nugent before if he has additional information, but the furthest distance, if I'll use the example, if you're riding from the north side of the community to the far south side, it would be approximately $18. And if you're closest, say if you're both, riding to and from with it, those amounts were heavily discounted when the pilots were created and are no longer a sustainable rate. So it's not a maintainable future rate structure.
The third question was, of the businesses that are no longer participating, how many have done so due to tightening budgets or changes in priorities?
Businesses have a variety of reasons, and those may include changing budgets or priorities, but they've also been impacted by not seeing the skills needed to fill their positions long term. They also see temporary workers that sometimes work for a short period of time and then resign pretty quickly. Or we see that it's only temporary workers that are using it, but the employer, such as the temporary agency, hasn't budgeted to be able to supplement that cost.
The next question was, to the best of our knowledge.
I'm sorry, it cut out.
I'm sorry. If there's been a reduction of riders due to COVID-19.
While there could be impact due to COVID-19, our employers throughout the pandemic that have been a part of these pilots, they have been and are critical infrastructure businesses. So they've maintained or increased production due to the pandemic. Riders have anecdotally mentioned concerns, I know, to Kevin and his drivers about riding due to COVID-19, but that's the most of the comments that we've seen related to the pandemic.
The next question was, how long was the survey available for employers and employees to fill out?
The survey was sent out on August the 21st, and it was available for 3 weeks to complete, with a reminder that was sent in the middle of the survey period.
And then the final question from Councilmember Valdivia Alcala was, have there been any types of emails or calls from the riders themselves concerned with the program ending? And do we know how many?
Other than a handful of employers interested in continue to offer the option through the new workforce transportation incentive, Go Topeka and the Topeka Metro, neither one have received any emails or calls regarding the program ending from employees. Capital City Taxi did indicate they haven't received any emails or calls, but they have been asked. And when I followed up with Kevin on that, he said just a few from the drivers, what the drivers have told him.
Of the JEDO board members, are there other questions of the transportation initiative?
I have one real quick. With the possibility of expanding this program to employers that are not necessarily in Soto and Netto, does that change the dynamics of the program? I know it was originally intended to go to those areas simply because there wasn't bus service, and so there was a lack of transportation. And I worry that if we do it to, say, you mentioned Stormont Vale, while there are probably people there that need a ride to work, it's right on a bus route. And so it's probably going to be relatively easy for them to get there during the regular business day. Has that been taken into consideration?
We do specify in that it is either those employers that are not on a bus route to Topeka Metro's geographic area, or that it is after hours when the bus doesn't run. So what it actually does is expand that possibility. We'll pick on Stormont again, but for the hospitals, those that would need rides, like you said, on a bus route, they'd be able to use it during the daytime. But say they can use the bus during, to arrive for their shift, they can't use it when they get off of their shift. And so this would just be supplemental to that. It also allows, this type of ridership and this type of structure, as I mentioned with the ranges $11 to $18, and it's probably really more than that because it was pretty heavily discounted when we set it up. We'd probably be looking at least $15 to maybe $25 in terms of what those rides might look like in terms of a tiered structure that an employer might set up. And so employers are going to want to make sure that their employees are using what is the most cost efficient option. Employers, of course, are committing to, 100% of their matching dollars to it, and they'd be able to get more riders to their place of employment over a longer period of time if they didn't have riders using it when the bus route was available. So it does align and make sure that that wouldn't be what was occurring.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? I see Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Kevin. And I was going to mention that same thing, Barbara. Have we talked to the state and federal agencies? I had a coworker that worked for the state, and she lived in Montera, and she had to take a cab, and it was pretty costly. To tap in on that, to make them those rides available to them, so they're not losing their jobs, or they're not getting penalized for them. Have we had those discussions with state agencies?
We have shared this information as we've had rides previously. We share most of our communications as it relates to human resources professionals with state agency contacts that we do have. So it is a possibility, again, because it is an employer match program. The employer has to commit dollars to. That oftentimes is what we see is the barrier for state agencies. But it is available and something that they could consider to offer, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that these discussions are being had. I understand with it being a state agency, how difficult it is. I worked with Susan Duffy tirelessly to try to get, them to work with inner city transit on our state employees, and she was still fighting a battle. I know it's a battle, but when you hear of one way and a person just takes a cab from Montera to 5th and Van Buren and it's $38 one way, that hurts. That hurts, but that's the only option that she had. I'm too am looking at this to make sure. It's great that we're bringing all these jobs here, but if we can't get our people there, that's really sad. And we have a lot of people that need to get there, and it's very important. So I support this, and I hope we'll continue to dig and to find a way that we can make it work, or continue to make it work. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, I see Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a quick story that I just thought about. Last year,
Councilmember Enersen.
Okay, last year on a super rainy day, it was pouring rain, and I stopped and I saw somebody walking, so I stopped to give them a ride, and it was actually somebody that works at the VA hospital, and it makes a really good point. It's almost exactly what Councilwoman Ortiz was just mentioning, and I really never thought about the VA needing to participate in a program like this, and it was somebody that was without a ride. I mean, it was she had 2 or 3 weeks of being without a ride and was walking to work. So I do think the opportunity to expand this could present some great opportunities that are not limited by geography.
Great points. Councilmember Enersen.
Thank you, Chair. Mrs. Stapleton, I guess a question, and I know somebody asked a similar question, but I'm not sure if I heard the answer or not. We've gotten a lot of emails, and a lot of people are nervous that it runs out. I think at 12/31, the existing service. I guess, are you guys committed to in the next week or two if employers will come forward working out a deal so we don't, we don't have a gap of a couple of weeks the first of the year?
Yes, and you're right. I did mention that perhaps in a different way, but we have already, planned. I've been working with the Topeka Metro so that we can coordinate those meetings with the employers that have expressed interest that are currently participating. And then, of course, others can come on board at a later time. They wouldn't be showing that there would be a gap in service if they hadn't participated yet. But because it is a matching funds program, those employers that commit, if they're committing at whatever tier they're committing at, if they're committing $1,000 for $1,000 from JEDO, so it's $2,000 for the year, because they have a handful of employees that use it, but they want to maintain it. They have that investment, that initial commitment of theirs up front to be able to do that. And then, of course, we can supplement that pretty quickly as we work with them for the agreements and the providers that they've lined up. So yes, that allows us to be able to move quickly.
And I don't remember the date, Barbara, you probably do, but we did send communication out to the employers that are participating. And when we did that, asked for them to follow back up with us if they were interested in pursuing some sort of a transportation option. And that was, gosh, a few weeks ago. I don't remember what date.
Middle of November, I believe it was November 22nd. We had a couple different dates. So yes, I think that was the.
So before even having this conversation with this program before you tonight, we knew something would be in place. We weren't sure exactly how it would be structured, but we've made that ask out to the employers that are participating right now or have been on that distribution list at least, to let them know that something will be coming so that they would have an idea to reach out to us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Are there other questions of the JEDO board, of the Go to Topeka staff? I know that we do have a number of individuals that have signed up to speak. We have 11 people that have signed up to speak on the update of the Transportation Task Force and this proposal. At this time, if we could take the first speaker, Mr. Carl Frazier, if he's available.
Mr. Frazier, you should be able to speak.
Yes. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words concerning the transportation workforce. My name is Carl Frazier. I'm the pastor of New Hope and Love Community Church, vice chair of the Topeka Jump Executive Committee, chair of the Kansas Kairos Prison Ministry, vice chair of the Executive Board for the Center for Peace and Justice, also the Topeka Police Chaplain, and Frazier Social Justice Consultant. Tonight, there are several JUMP members signed up for public comments. Since this is a virtual meeting, this is the only way that we are able to show that we are here and that we care. Also, all the comments tonight have our own personal reaction when we heard that JEDO was ending by December 31st. And there was nothing ready to be replaced those programs by January the 1st. As a little boy from Arkansas, I still have flashbacks seeing my mother walking to and from work as a helper. Also, we had to walk downtown to grocery stores and other places. I was so proud of JEDO and JUMP coming together with the program to ensure people have reliable and reasonable transportation to go to good jobs. What I heard JEDO was be discontinued by December 31st without a real plan or nothing in place by January the 1st. And later I heard Topeka JUMP wasn't able to be included at the table to make a decision. I was very disappointed. We were told we could be on the task force. The public was not included in the decision. The task force meeting should have been able to see by the public since tax dollars are being discussed. Furthermore, about a year ago, there's been approved over $300,000 to bring people to Topeka for jobs, opportunity by helping them buy a home or rent an apartment. But we want to discontinue or a program for people that already live in Topeka. Matthews 25:40 said, "Verily I say unto you, as much as you have done to the least of these my brothers, you have done also to me." As a social justice consultant, I see something wrong with this action if you're going to discontinue the program. What is social justice? Social justice is a fair treatment of all people in our society, including respect of the rights of minorities and equitable distribution of resources among members of the community. How can we be a community of peace and social justice when we are walking and dying trying to get to work? Are we our brothers and sister keeper? I can see people getting out of prison and don't have transportation to a good job that pay at least $15 an hour. I can see more people getting killed trying to get to work by walking. I can see people in the poor housing evicted from their housing because they can't get to work. But can I see you reinstating the transportation workforce program for Topeka, for the people of Topeka tonight? Thanks. This is Pastor Carl Frazier.
Thank you, Pastor Frazier. Our next speaker is Lynn Boddington.
Hello. I'm Lynn Boddington, and I'm a deacon at Westminster Presbyterian Church, and I'm a board member of JUMP. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to talk about transportation. We are in the holiday season. However, Topekans and citizens of Shawnee County who rely on JEDO and SODO to get to their jobs will not enjoy the holidays as they wonder, how will I get to work as of January 1st? I've been encouraged tonight, and I feel there's a real concern and effort to provide transportation to the working people of Topeka and Shawnee County. Like many of you mentioned tonight, as an employer, I too have given rides home to, one time, a temporary associate. The call center at Hills Pet Nutrition, located downtown, closes at 7:05 p.m. That's after the buses stop running. I did not want this temporary associate walking in downtown Topeka to get to her apartment. Another time, I provided a ride to our security guard who was making sure we were secure inside our building until it was time to go home, and she did not have a ride to her house. A concern I have about what's been proposed tonight is companies may not sign up, and rides won't be available to their employees. The way JEDO and SODO was set up, it was kind of standard transportation available to a lot of people in Shawnee County. So while I am encouraged by the options being offered to the companies, I'm disappointed there aren't solid plans in place to provide rides on January 1st. I'm concerned about the people I know and the people you know who are going to be forced to maybe unsafely walk and somehow try to get their own transportation. A suggestion I'd like to make tonight is perhaps Capital City could provide daytime service for transportation to help provide a kind of stopgap measure before solid plans are in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Our third speaker is Stephen Schiffelbein.
Thank you. My name is Steve Scheffelbein, and I am a member of Mother Teresa Catholic Church and on the board of Topeka JUMP. I am a lifelong resident of Topeka and Shawnee County. Resolving workforce transportation problem demonstrates that all people are loved and respected. It communicates that people have dignity and value. And I believe that my community values human dignity and respect for our neighbors. The facts were known for 3 years that public transportation was lacking to good paying jobs outside the city limits, and that SODO JEDO was a temporary solution. Since September, we have known that the taxi service was ending. In December, what do we have as a replacement? An intent to solve the problem. Why did it take 3 years? Why are we waiting at the last moment to come up with a solution yet to be implemented? Public transportation to good paying jobs is our problem, and all participants of our community are responsible. Citizens, employers, Go Topeka and Topeka Metro. A suggestion: JEDO should receive weekly progress reports from Go Topeka until employer-provider agreements are completed. We have the chance to support our brothers and sisters who want to work and support themselves. We need a workforce transportation program ready to go January 1. We urge the governing body to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Our fourth speaker is Elvira Johnson.
Hi, my name is Elvira Johnson, and I'm a member of Southern Hills Mennonite Church and a member of JUMP. I felt offended when I read the news release announcing that Soto Neto was ending at the end of the year. JUMP was aware that a task force was organizing to discuss reorganization. We had been urging officials to move on this issue and to involve us. In fact, we did not know until November that a committee had been meeting without us and apparently without any input from riders. I was confused that Topeka Metro, presumably with the blessing of Go Topeka, announced that the program was ending with no real plan in place to replace it. JEDO has approved workforce funds to continue through 2021. Go Topeka and Topeka Metro took it up on themselves to end the program instead of coming up with a ready-to-go plan on how to continue workforce transit. Decisions were made regarding public money without allowing any public input. Some 100 people in Topeka may be left without a way to get to work come January 1 if Go Topeka doesn't complete their job. We expect Go Topeka to come up with a specific plan to get people to work before January 1. A list of ideas does not suffice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Our fifth speaker tonight is Lorna Bowden.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me the time to speak with you all tonight. I am the pastor at Tecumseh United Methodist Church. I'm also on the board of Topeka JUMP. And I will tell you that my feelings after I've heard your ideas this evening leave me a little bit more optimistic than what I came to this meeting with. I am still discouraged that after talking with members that Topeka JUMP did not have a place at the table after working very hard for 3 years to try to bring a ride to work program that might work, and still wanting to be involved even when things might need to change. And you're right, things do change. I guess my concern at this point is that I'm not hearing which companies have said yes, they want to. How many people does that involve? If in fact there's 100 employees, how many of them are going to fall through the cracks because their employer has chosen not to participate? And come January 1, they are out of work again and finding it very difficult to come to a living wage job, where at some point in time, after a year's worth of working or 2 years, they would be able to afford their own transportation, which is what I felt was really good about the program, is to get these people to places where they can afford their homes, their apartments, possibly a vehicle, daycare, food, utilities, prescriptions, all of those things that the rest of us kind of take for granted. So I do feel a little bit better that there is a plan out there, but I am still very, very concerned that we have a gap here between now and January 1. And I am not hearing anything to help me feel better that our Topekans are going to get their rides to work.
Thank you, Pastor Bowden. Our sixth speaker tonight is Pamela Berry.
Hello, I am Pamela Berry, co-pastor of Gethsemane Worship Center and a member of JUMP. When I first heard about the news about someone that may be closing, whatever, my hearing tonight has given me some light on things about what's going to take place. But I was still kind of frustrated that we were not involved in that decision making of all the hard work that we as an organization have done to make sure people have a workforce transportation. We now have 3 weeks to come up with an alternative program to avoid a significant loss to at least 100 rides to work. One might debate whether 100 unique riders is a significant number, but if a company that employs 100 people went out of business tomorrow, would that be considered a significant loss to this community? The absence of the other program would be immediately impacted roughly 100 unique riders a month. However, we should not forget the real capability of a ride to work program. When Zoller and NATO had the most companies participating, they provided 1,500 rides a month. That is the real loss and ending of Zoller NATO. Ridership only dropped when companies dropped out of the program. Companies dropped out of the program because they did not want to pay for the program, not because there wasn't a need. We cannot allow people to be left behind. For only $300,000 a year, these programs can run their best with being fully, totally funded by public money. But we are here debating dollars and vendors and making it complicated. Topeka needs to organize this workforce for us, or they need to get someone that can be at the table and get it organized. This is economic development for everyday people like me and the rest of Topeka JUMP. We need a program in place by January 1st. We can't afford a gap in the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Our seventh speaker tonight is Antone Aarons.
Thank you, Councilman Cook. My name is Antone Aarons, and I'm a member of Trinity Presbyterian Church and also on the Topeka JUMP board. When I heard that this new plan was in place to replace Soto and Neto, I wasn't entirely surprised. I was a little bit shocked, I'd have to say, that we think it's appropriate to leave it up to companies to get their workers to work when most of the companies have dropped out of the program we provided them that provided over 40,000 rides to work. 40,000 rides. It seems like those hundreds of people must not be as important as the few companies that might choose to take up some plan starting January 1st, if that's even possible. I'm really disappointed that we can spend so many millions of tax dollars in economic development to large corporations that have plenty of money on their own, but can't seem to find a way to get their workers who need a ride to work. Hundreds of Topekans have benefited each year from Soto and Neto, and we decide because it's a pilot program that we have to stop it. People's lives are not pilots. They need reliable ways to get to work. They'll need it in 2020, they'll need it in 2021, they'll need it long after I'm dead. Topeka should support a portfolio of economic development focused on workforce transportation every year in Topeka's budget. A workforce transportation plan needs to be operational by January 1st of next year. People will need a ride to work, and I'm sure the hundreds that have been riding in Soto and Neto, even during the pandemic, are going to be left out. That disturbs me. I commend City Councilman Enersen for making sure that Go Topeka is ready to produce a program that's ready to go January 1st, because that is Go Topeka's responsibility to get people to work January 1st, 2021, with many companies taking part. I'll look forward to that happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Anton. Our next speaker tonight is Ann Flynn.
Good evening. Hello. I am Reverend Ann Flynn, and I serve as deacon at Grace Cathedral. I am also a co-chair of JUMP. I was so very proud of Topeka when Soto and Neto programs were established. I was thrilled at the steady use of the program by working Topekans who were able to have reliable transportation to jobs that supported their families. Imagine my disappointment when I heard these two vital programs were ending without a viable replacement in place. The tens of thousands of rides provided by these two programs clearly show that this works for working Topekans. We desperately need to have a real plan in place to get people to work after the end of the year. The jobs provided by the companies are even more important as we move into peak season in an unstable economy. At JUMP, we are seriously concerned about having a program up and running by January 1st. There is an absolute need to have a solution in place by the first of the year. Failure to do so will put people's jobs in jeopardy. Even if an interim service just covers the daytime hours, it would be better than completely abandoning those who have come to rely on Soto and Neto. In closing, we need an operational workforce transportation program before January 1st. We cannot afford a gap in services. Please tell Go Topeka to put a real plan in place to help keep people in Topeka working by providing an effective solution to their transportation needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker tonight is Elizabeth Gregg.
My name is Liz Gregg. I'm a member of Lowman United Methodist Church and a 5-year member of Topeka JUMP. To be real honest, I was disappointed that the public was not included in on the decisions about workforce transportation. Go Topeka job is to do economic development. Workforce transportation is economic development and is only part of the Go Topeka's portfolio that relates directly to the regular working class. We need to come up with the workforce transportation program before January 1st, and we urge you to do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker tonight is Lenora Kinsey.
Good evening. My name is Lenora Kinsey, and I am a member of Most Pure Heart of Mary Catholic Church and Topeka JUMP. Regarding the workforce transportation plan, my first comments regard the recent press release from Topeka Metro specific to the stoppage of Soto and Neto services. I felt it was issued prematurely and perhaps done with the hope that maybe they could eliminate the program entirely. We have proven there is a need for workplace transportation. Over the past 2 to 3 years, you have seen the numbers, You have heard the stories of how these rides to work have improved lives, to the point that some people no longer need the program. There was a comment in the press release that employees are not using the program as much. Maybe for some people, this might be because employees have earned enough at higher wage jobs to purchase a car that now allows them to independently drive to work, to independently get to the doctor, to independently drive to the grocery store or other businesses. This is a great outcome. In a personal email response, Councilman Duncan said, we need to work with businesses, and I agree with that. But I do not believe that Go Topeka has adequately engaged these businesses. We understand that the companies who want to commit to this program could not sign a contract before JEDO's approval tonight. That is clear to us. However, something more explicit or concrete should have been discussed tonight. In the agenda packet for today's meeting, there are several contracts that have been drawn up for incentive agreements. They are basically final and just waiting your approval. Workforce transportation could have been handled in the same way. I wanted to see a draft agreement for the workforce transportation plan included in this packet. This is where I am really anxious and feeling a sense of urgency. We need an operational workforce transportation program before January 1st, and that is 3 weeks and 1 day, including Christmas and Christmas Eve. We cannot afford a gap in services. Something concrete needs to be in place in 3 weeks and 1 day so that people do not lose their jobs when things in our economy are already difficult enough. This program is essential. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Lenora. Our next speaker tonight is Harry Christian.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Pastor Harry Christian of the Asbury Mount Olive United Methodist Church here in the great city of Topeka. And I must too say to you that when I read that you were stopping this program on the 1st of January, I too was very sad and disheartened. I do know of all the members and folks that are using the program. It is a worthy program. We have 3 years of data that shows that people are using this program. I am saddened that we think that we need to worry about businesses and the money we give to everybody else to move into our city, that we have so little regard for those that are working in a city. And don't get me wrong, I know you care in some way, some form about people, but it seems to me that we do so much more for the haves and not enough for the have-nots. These people need this transportation. And I truly understand about the dollars. I think any pastor that's running a church in these days understand that dollars are few and far between. But we're not talking about money or just business. We're talking about people's lives. My last meeting with the Jump Board, and I'm a member of the Jump Board, we were talking about people dying on the streets trying to get to work. And I'm thinking we're talking about people dying now that will not have a job, but will not have transportation. So I would think that Go Topeka would at least involve the public of those people that really needs the job. Like somebody from the public should have been available to talk about spending taxpayers' money. Somebody from the public should have been available to say, hey, we understand that you may be only doing 100 riders today, but it could very easily be 200 riders in 2010. I am very disappointed that we didn't come with a working plan, not a plan to put it in place, because you and I both know trying to get things done in the 2021 now is so unpredictable that we should have had a plan to go for these people. We should have cared enough about God's people that we had a plan to go. It's not about companies. This really is about the lives of Topekans, and we ought to care about those that make less than 20,000, that make less than 30,000. It really seems to me that it was all about what we can put into money and not about people. I pray that we will consider coming up with a program before January 1st that will work not only with the companies, but with the people of the people that needs these jobs. We can do better. We should do better. We are called to do better. Thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian. Based on the questions and the comments of the public speakers, the public comment, I do have a question for Ms. Howie. If you're still online?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Is it possible for the Go Topeka staff to provide weekly or very regular updates to the JEDO board members of this transportation initiative and where we're at with it, with the employers and the employees the first of the year?
Sure. To clarify, you just want to have weekly reports about the communication, the feedback that we're receiving, and the number of confirmations to participate in the program, things like that?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And then how are you going to go about marketing this to the employers and the employees?
Yeah, so if the program is approved this evening, we'll have a media release out this week, and we will have agreements drafted or an agreement, a template for an agreement drafted as late as Monday or as early as Monday. As late as Monday, I'm sorry. I was thinking we could probably promise to have it done by Friday, but as late as Monday to share with companies that would want to jump in at this opportunity. And that way we can get some signatures and get some confirmations from the companies that are ready to jump.
Are there any other questions or comments from the JEDO staff?
I have a quick, yeah, I have a quick question. It's my understanding we already approved a $100,000 budget item for this. So what exactly are we going to be voting on tonight?
My assumption was voting on the proposal that's in the memo in your packet that outlines the structure of the program with the terms of the maximum amounts that each company could receive, and then the matching funds piece of 100% matching from the JEDO funds, and that the way that we are distributing those funds is what we're asking for approval on.
Okay, thank you.
I would make that motion.
There's been a motion made by Mayor Della Isla. Is there a second?
I'll second. Aaron Mays.
Second by Commissioner Mays. Before we go to vote, is there any other discussion on the motion?
May I ask one question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Councilmember Padilla.
I believe I know the answer, but I just want to, I guess, it be on record, considering the comments that we've heard. I believe that Molly and Barbara have communicated, I think, very effectively with all parties who are affected by this effort, the writers and the providers for those writers. In addition, I would ask Molly or Barbara, if you know, were there opportunities for other entrepreneurs outside of Topeka Metro or Cap City to be given the information about what is needed, what we're trying to accomplish, and if they would be able to provide any of that service? Because, you know, if a company like Capital City decides they will or won't do something, I don't know that I feel comfortable trying to put them in a position where I guess, for me anyway, almost like saying, well, it's your fault. I mean, it's a privately owned business. They have the right to run the business they want to, the way they want, and they know whether they have the capacity or the finances to do that. So I'm a little uncomfortable with focusing just on whether or not Capital City would do it or not. If we said they need to do it, how do we enforce that? And so what I want to know is there any other opportunities out there for other entrepreneurs that maybe you or Barbara or Bob ran into in talking over these things?
Yes, there may be. Bob has mentioned it. I know he's, I think, mentioned it with other cab companies that are in the community. We know that as we issue that press release, we will kind of do that call to action for if there are other organizations that might like to do something like that as well. So there has been that conversation and there has been that shared. I know that the Topeka Metro actually provided us the context when we issued the survey back earlier this year in the early fall or late summer. And so, you know, we've had those indications that there is that opportunity for others to participate. Yes.
Thank you.
Can I also just, this is Matt Pavarnik. I think that's a great point that Councilman Padilla makes. And I think that's the strength of not doing a one-size-fits-all program. I mean, obviously there's a reason that the NEDO and SODO has been great, but it hasn't been perfect, obviously, or the employers would still be wanting to use it. I think this a la carte and this ability for an employer to be creative. There may be ride shares. Maybe they want to reach out to somebody like a Cortez or something like, I mean, really there's a lot of different options here, and that's the beauty of this, is it's not one size fits all. It's more inclusive because it doesn't narrow it down to just certain geographic areas, and it really allows the HR folks and the recruiters and the employers to get creative about how they would invest their dollars and the matching dollars from JEDO to get their employees to work that need rides.
Would it make sense for us to be able to start writing an RFP so that way we start encouraging entrepreneurial development?
Mayor Del Isla, do you wish to expand on that?
So one of the challenges that we have is that, as we heard, the Metro is not going to be able to continue, and the cab company was not able to continue as well. This is a great opportunity for us to spur economic development and entrepreneurship in our organization, in our community. My thought process is, if we were able to have a roster of the organizations that want to, that are going to participate, while we are working on additional transportation availability, maybe we put out an RFP in the community that indicates the hours that we would like to have transportation for, how many rides, and see what somebody else can provide for us.
Molly, Barbara, do you wish to respond to that?
I think that's doable. It will take a little bit more time than the timeline I promised with the media release and the contract, just because our brain has already been moving in that direction. But yeah, I think that's definitely doable, and would welcome any feedback on what should be included in that. But I think what we're doing is leaning on the data that we have from the pilot and the employers that are wanting to move forward, and really outlining those needs and then sharing that with the community. It's a great idea.
Are there any other questions regarding the motion that has been made by Mayor De La Isla and seconded by Commissioner Mays? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Mays,
Yes.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Emerson,
Yes.
Council Members Padilla,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Okay, with the passage of that, we do have a transportation initiative in place. Molly and Barbara, if you're able to provide those press releases, as well as the updates to the JEDO staff and the JEDO board, so that we can be on top of this.
Yes, we will, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Item 7, presentation, Choose Topeka update.
Good evening again. So there should be a slide that'll pull up shortly that'll give you some of the updated numbers as it relates to Choose Topeka and specifically the Talent Relocation Initiative. So in September, you all approved the addition of the remote worker option, and I wanted to give you the updates from both the employer matching fund job option that you approved last December, as well as the remote worker option from September of this year. We have received over 80 submissions for the remote worker option. We have moved through that pipeline 5 candidates. We have an additional 5 that are in the interview process currently. And we've had submissions and seen them from over 23 states as well as 3 countries. I did want to remind you, of course, of the employer matching funds piece, because that continues to be nice and solid, even in a pandemic year. And we have 23 candidates in that program, 26 employer submissions. So what that means, and this does sometimes happen, candidates are submitted and they either have a life change occur or something happens, and they may not end up deciding to accept their position. So that's why you see that difference. But we've had 13 employers that have matched and submitted and have moved through the process. And so we have set aside $138,750 matching JEDO dollars for those remote worker moves, or for those employer matching funds moves, as well as $45,000 encumbered for remote workers. One of the things that I think is really interesting to see, and I know I mentioned the slide that shows 4,500 applications, but we've had even a greater amount of, in terms of earned media that we've talked with you about in the past. What we're seeing now is continued reach outs. Tomorrow morning, I'll have the opportunity to speak with the entire state of Louisiana as it relates to economic development. I'll be sitting on a panel with others from Tulsa, as well as remote Shoals, Alabama, and the Savannah Economic Development Authority, as we talk about designing creative incentive programs to attract remote workers. And then we've also had reach outs. Of course, I think Bob Ross, our communications SVP, has had conversations similarly to those types of things, and on summit attendance and that sort of thing. We've heard from several students in projects, whether it was an MBA research study on drivers that attract talent retention. We also had an urban planning master's student that was completing her thesis on relocation incentive programs. And we've heard from young policymakers and entrepreneurs in Alaska trying to figure out how they can recruit and retain talent as well. I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share this with you because you all were the driving force in making sure that the relocation incentive piece of the Choose Topeka site happened. The urban planning student indicated that she's done quite a bit of research, and that the Choose Topeka program was the most well-informed and intentional incentive program in the country. She added in parentheses, and maybe even the world. Italy and Iceland are trying, but don't come close. That is huge. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the support that you've given us as we look at helping to continue to not only grow our population, but support our employers in the community. And I will stand for any questions. This was an update today. We do still have funds that will probably carry us through at least until the first JEDO meeting of next year. And so we may look at continuing to fund a second round after the first amount of dollars are complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Are there any comments for Barbara regarding the Choose Topeka campaign?
Barbara, as you go and participate in those panel discussions, don't give away too many secrets, okay?
I won't. There's a lot of maintenance behind the scenes with all of this. And so I found that we're probably operating a lot better than maybe a few of the other ones. I did share a brief document in terms of an initial communication and the supporting documentation that we require to validate and ensure that everything is accurate with Savannah, because she's a party of one, and she actually used for her transportation or her travel dollars to be able to offer that incentive. So again, another type of creative form of incentive, but she needed assistance.
Great. Do we have any additional comments? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Our next item.
Item 8, public comment.
We do not have any public speakers signed up. Are there any comments from the JEDO board? Seeing none, I would note that our next meeting is scheduled for February the 10th of 2021, followed by May the 12th, 2021, September the 8th of 2021, and December the 8th of 2021. And would also note that the chairmanship would end at the end of this year with Shawnee County, and then transition at the beginning of the year to the mayor, with the city of Topeka being the chair. With no additional comments, we are adjourned.
Good night.